For Sinister, spine-chilling tales revealed this Holy Week, haunted secrets exposed. Jessica's heart raced as she punched in her hospital code, the fluorescent lights humming ominously overhead. The late-night shift had just begun, but a creeping sense of dread clawed at her insides. She glanced at her phone, her breath hitching in her throat. A sleek black screen lit up, showcasing a string of messages from an unknown number, deeply unsettling words that twisted her stomach. "I see you put Ivy to bed at 8. Charlie loves his stories, doesn't he?" The hairs on her neck prickled. This was no joke. Who could know these things? The night dragged on, filled with the whir of medical machines and the haunting echoes of hospital life. Jessica tried to shake off the uneasy feeling, focusing instead on her duties. But every patient's face turned into a distorted reflection of her own fears. By morning, she was exhausted, her mind clouded with thoughts of the texts. Could it be a prank? Or worse, something more sinister? As Holy Week approached, strange happenings condensed around her suburban neighborhood of Maplewood. Rumors whispered like shadows among the streets, a strange figure lurking at night. Old Mr. Whitman next door, with his worn hands and vacant stare, was often seen offering help to families in need. But eyes narrowed and niggling doubts whispered of grim stories. Tales of vanished children hung like storm clouds over the town. Desperation clawed at her. She approached neighbors, seeking answers, but eyes rolled at her concerns. "It's just Mr. Whitman. You're imagining things," they said, their dismissals heavy with disbelief. Even the police shrugged it off. But every time she heard Ivy and Charlie laugh, her heart turned cold. The children seemed drawn to Mr. Whitman, each hushed secret they shared tightened the knots in her stomach. One evening, Jessica returned home from yet another exhausting shift, the sun dipping behind tangled branches, casting eerie shadows. As she stepped onto her porch, the flickering light bulbs overhead sent shivers down her spine. Panic grew as she realized she felt watched. Breathing heavily, she turned to walk inside, only to hear hurried footsteps echoing from behind. Her breath quickened, each beat pounding in her ears. She sprinted into the overgrown lot beside her house, heart racing like a frantic drum. But just as she caught her breath, a voice slithered through the darkness. "Why are you hiding, Jessica?" Before she could respond, adrenaline surged through her veins. This wasn't just paranoia, it was something far worse, something wrapped in the cold claws of dread that gripped Maplewood. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jessica's spine tingled with terror that mixed with urgency. Was Mr. Whitman the puppet master behind this chaos, or was he just a scarecrow erected by her frayed nerves? She could feel the suffocating air of Maplewood trapping her in its grasp. Ivy and Charlie were blissfully unaware, lost in their innocent worlds, spiraling deeper into the clutches of someone she no longer trusted. The neighborhood felt like a tightly wound noose, and somewhere beneath the surface, dread lurked, waiting to strike. Every turn she took felt wrong, and as whispers grew louder in her mind, she asked herself what lay hidden in the depths of the familiarity she once cherished. The answer eluded her but taunted her ever closer. Shadows danced ominously around the bend, leaving Jessica to wonder, would she discover the truth in time, or had she already stepped too far into the dark? The ground was damp beneath Jessica's feet as she emerged from the shadows of her yard, panting against her mounting fears. Every rustle of leaves made her jump, every flicker of light felt like a taunt. She had to decide, confront the danger or hide like a child playing pretend. The voice still echoed in her ears. "Why are you hiding, Jessica?" She stumbled forward toward her front door, but the itch of dread held her back. She turned, scanning the horizon. The street was quiet now, but her mind wouldn't let go of the image of Mr. Whitman, his coated grin lingering like a ghost. Was he still watching, hiding in the darkness of his porch? Suddenly, from behind, she heard the playful giggles of Ivy and Charlie. It twisted her stomach. They shouldn't be out here. She spun, finding them splashed with shadows, darting around the birch tree. Their innocence seemed like an act of defiance against the fears that whipped around Jessica like a storm. "Mommy, look!" Charlie called, clutching a shiny object in his tiny hand. "We found something." Her heart dropped. It was a silver locket, gleaming under the flickering bulb above. It was beautiful, but a jarring image cracked through her mind. What if it belonged to one of the vanished children? The locket swung, catching the sparse light. "Where did you find that?" she demanded, her voice quaking. "Over there." Ivy pointed toward the gap between Mr. Whitman's fence and the neighboring property, a wild thicket hanging with broken branches in moonlight. Jessica's instinct screamed at her to turn back, yet curiosity intertwined with her dread. "Stay right here," she ordered, the words scraping from her throat. She crossed the yard, the cool air thickening as she approached the tangled underbrush. With each step, she felt the eyes of the neighborhood upon her. How quickly it had turned from a peaceful haven to a battleground of dark secrets. Forcing herself to breathe, she reached the gap in the fence. The locket dangled from her fingers, small and cold, almost pulsating with hidden dread. A strange whisper, like wind speaking through dead leaves, teased her ears. "Don't go there, don't go." It sent shivers down her spine, urging her to flee. But with the children still behind her, she had to know. Pushing through, brambles clawed at her skin, and the darkness seemed to stretch closer, tangling her heart in its clutches. She stumbled into the other yard, her breath hitching as she took in the view. The garden was vibrant, full of life, but every flower, every blade of grass felt wrong somehow. Something sinister lurked underneath, as if the ground whispered terrible secrets. In the corner sat Mr. Whitman's shed, its door slightly ajar, a full shadow lurking behind it. "Mommy, can we come?" Ivy's innocent voice broke through, pulling Jessica back. Clenching the locket tighter, Jessica turned, ready to return, when an unfamiliar sensation washed over her. A figure loomed in the doorway, silhouetted against the sepia glow of a forgotten lantern. Jessica's heart fought against the cage of bone in her chest. Their eyes locked, a knowing chill crackling in the air. It was time to challenge the darkness. "Come on out, Mr. Whitman," she called, steeling her voice. "I want to know what's going on." Silence ensued, thick as fog. The kids tucked behind her, sensing the shift. Then a slow smile crept across the figure's face. "Jessica, you shouldn't have come here." The air turned electric, a primal tension gripping at her instincts. What had she stumbled into? And what trusting secrets would she now have to confront? Suddenly, she heard something shift in the darkness, a new sound that made her freeze. A child's laughter echoed, blood-curdling and unnatural. It was a sound that didn't belong to Ivy or Charlie. As fear wrapped its icy fingers around her throat, a voice, raspy and young, whispered from the shadows, "Help us." Jessica's world spun. She knew in the depths of her bones that this nightmare was just beginning. What had she awakened? And what awaited them all on the other side of the door? Jessica's heart hammered in her chest as icy fear pooled in her stomach. The laughter, so joyful, yet laced with something malevolent, echoed through the heavy silence. She couldn't turn away. She couldn't run. Her instincts screamed for caution, but the children shivered against her back, their trust still fresh and unbroken. "Who's there?" She stepped forward, determination fighting against the dread gripping her throat. The figure in the doorway shifted, stepping into the faint light, revealing more details: grime on skin, wild eyes, hair tangled like roots. It wasn't Mr. Whitman. This was someone else entirely. "Help us." The voice came again, crystal clear but steeped in a haunting resonance. A chorus of whispers fluttered around them, making her feel like shadows danced in the corners of her vision. "Mommy," Ivy whimpered, squeezing Jessica's side. "I'm scared." Jessica crouched low, speaking softly to her children. "Stay behind me," she said, eyes never leaving the figure. Whatever it was, human or something else, it wasn't a simple apparition. There was something deeply unsettling about its small stature, the way it flickered in and out of sight like a malfunctioning streetlight. "Help us." The voice sang anew, a child's plea that sent shivers skittering up her spine. "We want to play." And then, a flurry of movement from deeper inside the shadows of the shed. Panic surged through her as she realized the truth: there was more than one voice, more than one figure waiting in the darkness. Her mind raced. Was this a cruel trick of the night? Had Mr. Whitman summoned lost souls, or worse? Who are you? What do you want? Jessica demanded, her voice steady despite the tremors running through her hands. We want to be free, came the ethereal reply, swirling around her, each word chilling her to the core. The children hid behind her as the figure inched closer, a ghostly thing, gliding without touching the ground. Suddenly, everything felt wrong. The garden vibrated with a heartbeat of its own, every bloom and branch pulsing, alive in a sinister way. Jessica's breath came faster, the locket she still clutched felt like a weight dragging her down. She didn't just want to be a mother right now, she wanted to protect them, to shield their innocence from what lay beyond the shed's door. Don't look at them! A shout broke from Jessica's throat, the words tearing at her. It felt instinctual, primal, like a warning ringing out against an unseen threat. But the children stared, mesmerized by the strange shape emerging, their wide eyes locking on the warped figure inching closer. From the shadows emerged another child, a girl this time, hair wild and faces smudged with dirt. She was as pale as the moonlight, with eyes that bore the weight of countless secrets. You have to help us. They want to let us go. Who won tea? Jessica pressed, pulse racing, dread clawing at her insides, but the girl didn't answer. Instead, she stretched out a hand as though something tethered her to the world just out of reach. We just want to play a game, she said, her tone shifting, almost sing-song, unnervingly bright. But it's a dangerous one. From behind her, she thought she heard Charlie letting out a small, terrified whimper. Jessica's heart twisted. Time felt stale, each tick of the clock relentless against the growing unease. She needed to get the kids out, but the darkness crept around her, creeping into her mind with those dreadful words, they want to let us go. Did they refer to Mr. Whitman, or something more profound? Something deeper than mere flesh? Suddenly, a sudden rush, like a gust of wind, swept through the garden, knocking her back. 1,000 disembodied breaths fluttered against her skin, coiling like fingers around her throat. The shapes twisted in front of her now, melding into one grotesque collection of lost souls, stretching and bending against the cold, unyielding night. Help us or join us, they chorused, an unpredictable wall of voices rising from the murmurs. The children cowered, their bodies pressing tighter against her, her heart raced. What did they want? What could they possibly mean? As Jessica braced herself against the approaching darkness, her mind flickered with a single thought: she couldn't let her children receive the call of the cursed. But what if their very existence came with a price? With thoughts swirling, she desperately wondered, could she tear them away from this grasp? The ground beneath her seemed to pulse, and through the chaos rose a new whisper: you have one chance. But Jessica had no clue what that chance was. And as the figures melded into the shadows, her feeling of hope fell away. What would come next? And how would she protect her children from the terrible game that had only just begun? The whispers thickened in the air, wrapping around Jessica like a suffocating fog. Fear pulsed in her chest, each beat echoing with a frantic urgency. The figures before her shifted again, their forms barely discernible, like smoke bending to a hidden wind. She could feel the pull, a magnetic suggestion seeping into her thoughts, urging her closer. Mommy, I'm scared. Ivy's voice quaked, echoing Jessica's own dread. She twisted, attempting to reassure her little girl with a brave smile, but her heart sank as she met Charlie's pleading gaze as well. What if they were entrapped here, forever stripped of safety? The ghostly child stretched her fingers wider, pale and translucent, as if she could almost grasp Jessica's hand despite the unseen barrier that kept them apart. You can help us, she urged, her voice high and melodic, yet tinged with tears. If you don't help us, you will lose them. The threat lingered in the air, heavy and unyielding. Jessica could almost feel the chill of death seep into her bones. What do you mean? She snapped, forcing her voice steady. Why must my children pay for your freedom? The air shimmered with a sudden intensity, the figures seemed to swell, becoming a tide of lost hopes and forgotten fears. It's a game of choice, Mommy, they chimed in unison, the symphony of voices merging until it felt like the ground trembled beneath Jessica's feet. You must choose who stays and who goes. Stunned, Jessica staggered back, trying to compose herself. You want me to give up one of my kids? The incredulity rolled off her tongue, but her gut twisted with an unsettling truth. She wasn't sure how far the darkness would go to force her hand. The shadows twisted closer, exhaling cold breaths, as if the very garden held its breath. Not give up but save. The ghastly chorus shuddered with a strange laughter, a sickening melody that wrapped around her mind. You can protect one, but the other must join us. No! Jessica roared, her voice raw with determination. She couldn't believe what they were saying, yet her heart raced at the unthinkable reality. Wouldn't she choose them over any promise of freedom? But what kind of future was there if she remained here? Mommy? Ivy's soft wail sliced through the torment of choice pressing against Jessica's heart. What's happening? Before she could answer, the dark figures lurched. They flickered like shadows in an oncoming storm, voices turning sharp with glee, growing louder with fevered expectancy. Jessica's instincts screamed for her to flee, but she couldn't abandon her children to face this malevolent force alone. Help us, the chorus pleaded, now distorted, soaking the air with desperation. Join us so we can play. She reached back instinctively, feeling the soft warmth of Ivy's hand in hers, the small weight of Charlie clinging to her other side. Her heart screamed with an agony she never wished to feel. It was madness, a twisted game put forth by forces beyond her understanding. I won't let you take them, she cried, thrusting her hands forward as if it could ward off the encroaching shadows. But they didn't retreat. Instead, they surged forward, engulfing her in a cloister of cold despair that wrapped around her throat like a noose. Somewhere in the depths of her mind, a scream resounded, a plea to the universe to save her children. She felt a familiar warmth rising in her chest, memories of love and laughter piercing through her fear. Jessica had to do something. But what could she possibly do to end this curse? Then suddenly, a figure broke free from the shadows, lunging toward Jessica. Her heart dropped. Was it another child? Desperation clawed at her gut. Silence! The ghostly voice thundered as the new figure emerged, shaking off the dark. It wasn't lost, but something different. A protector? Jessica blinked back the darkness, her heart racing with bewilderment, but then the figure froze, locking eyes with Jessica, and she felt her breath hitch. It was someone she recognized, someone she thought was gone. Help us, they rasped, their face a haunting semblance of familiarity. You must trust me. Jessica felt the ground shake beneath her feet again as she teetered between hope and horror, unable to comprehend the crossroads she now faced. This wasn't just about saving her children. She was about to plunge into a terrifying choice that could unearth buried secrets from her past. Could she stand against the night and protect what mattered most? And as the figures beckoned with phantom fingers, Jessica's resolve burst forth, a flame in the icy night. What would she choose to save, and at what cost? The time was ticking. The figure in front of Jessica unraveled the knots in her mind, a dizzying whirl of recognition and disbelief. Is it really you? She whispered, her voice trembling as the shadows writhed around them, eager for the moment of judgment. Ivy squeezed her hand tighter, the innocent grip both grounding and terrifying. Time is short, the figure rasped, urgency marring the familiar warmth that Jessica had once felt. You must believe me. They can't take what you won't allow. They thrive on your fear, your despair. You have to fight. Jessica's heart pounded like a drum, the sound echoing in the oppressive silence. Fight? She echoed, her voice thick with confusion. What does that even mean? But there was no time for answers. The ghostly children surged closer, their shapes undulating, a twisted dance of lost souls grasping for release. Choose! They cried, their voices rising in a maddening cacophony. Save them, Mommy! But one must come to us! With every word, the very air vibrated, thickening with an unnatural weight. Jessica felt the warmth in her heart flicker like a dying flame. The choice tore at her, a raw wound tearing deeper with every moment she hesitated. Think, Jessica! The figure urged, its voice rising above the frenzy, cutting through the noise like a blade. You have a power they don't understand. You are their mother, and instinct is your greatest weapon. They can't break you if you don't let them. Instinct? She shot back, panic spilling over, rippling through her gut like poison. They're playing with my children's lives. what do I do? The figure stepped closer, illuminated by a faint whisper of light, drawing the shadows back slightly. Remember the love that binds you. It's your strength. The darkness feeds on fear, and love is the light. Use it. As the words settled in her mind, Jessica felt a surge of warmth flooding through her, tinged with protective anger. Thoughts of bedtime stories, laughter echoing through their home, the ways they made the ordinary magical, these thoughts wrapped around her heart like armor. Mommy! Ivy clung to her desperately, her eyes wide with terror. A single tear trickled down Charlie's cheek, glistening in the dim light. They didn't understand, but they did need her to act. Jessica shifted her focus on the dark figures. You want my fear? I'll give you nothing but love. She thrust her arms wide, expecting nothing to happen, but the world around her exploded with colors, light piercing through the shadows. The spirits reeled back, their expressions twisted with fury. No! This is not the game. They howled, voices a mix of outrage and panic. But Jessica pressed on. I refuse to let you take them. My children are not toys for your twisted games. A radiant energy began to bloom from her chest, snowballing until it enveloped Ivy and Charlie, warmth spiraling outward. The shadows buckled and writhed, desperate to cling to any drop of fear left within her, but it faded away, consumed by the light she emanated. Don't you dare! They screeched, the chilling chorus clashing violently with Jessica's newfound strength. But the barrier of light expanded, washing over them, and their ethereal figures began to fade. Don't let them go! Ivy cried, her small voice faltering amidst the chaos, but Jessica knew she had to hold the line. Then came the familiar face's haunting gaze again. You have to finish this. It urged, intensity burning in its eyes. Trust the bond that made you a family. Suddenly, the whispers turned to howls, echoing off the walls of the darkness, clawing at Jessica's sanity. She could feel the world around her shatter into pieces, reality twisting and unraveling. No! Jessica screamed, fighting against the vortex of terror surrounding them. The light surged, her heart racing in defiance. And in that moment, she saw a vision of her once peaceful home, a sanctuary filled with laughter, memories, a life worth fighting for. Come to me! She shouted, turning to her children. Stay close. With a fierce determination, she took a step forward, propelled by sheer love, challenged by the shadows flaring with rage. We are stronger than you. We will not play your game. The ground trembled underfoot as she pushed against the shadows' fraying grip. The dark forces wailed, and in that scream, Jessica caught a glimpse of what her choice truly meant. But then everything began to wobble, the light flickering as the shadows fought back, desperate to reclaim their grip. As their hold on her wavered, a terrifying realization hit her: all battles come with a price. And in that moment of brilliance, the darkness could take someone. But who? The light pulsed with her heartbeat, cementing the fleeting question that hung in the air, thick with dread. What sacrifice would she have to make to save them? And as the storm inside her raged, more powerful than before, she found herself on the precipice of a decision that could shatter everything. The time was slipping away. The shadows converged, a wave of darkness that pressed against them, twisting and turning with a sinister intent. Jessica's heart raced, pounding in her chest like a war drum. Panic threatened to swallow her whole, but she gritted her teeth, focusing on Ivy and Charlie's frightened faces. Hold on to me! She shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. The warmth radiating from her glimmered, pushing back the encroaching darkness bit by bit. I love you. We're a family, and nothing is going to tear us apart. The shadow shrieked in defiance, a cacophony that threatened to shatter her resolve. The air crackled with a violent energy, alive with an oppressive weight that wrapped around her like a serpent. You can't win, Jessica. You'll pay the price. The creature's voices echoed, slithering around her like tendrils, tugging at her mind, sowing seeds of doubt, but with every word they hurled, she could feel her love burning brighter. I will not let you take my children. With a surge of will, she fixed her gaze on the shadows and held tight to the light within her. Suddenly, the fabric of the nightmare shifted. One moment, they were surrounded by a suffocating darkness, the next, a crack of light broke through a tunnel, glowing with promise, beckoning them forward. But a looming dread settled over Jessica. Where did the light lead? Was it sanctuary or further into the unknown? Mommy, where do we go? Ivy's voice trembled with innocence but echoed a deeper fear. Trust me. We need to move. Jessica urged, stepping toward the light, a portal shimmering with the warmth of home. But her heart froze at the realization that moving toward it could mean leaving something behind. The shadows recoiled, screeching, their fury igniting the air around them. If you step into that light, they bellowed, one of you will remain. Choose wisely. Jessica's breath quickened as the words sank in. What do you mean? She felt ice grip her chest. The love that had burned so fiercely now flickered, casting her into a paralyzing uncertainty. Someone must stay, the shadows whispered, laced with dark delight, to keep the balance. Or else, it all ends. Jessica turned to her children, desperation clawing at her throat. Their wide eyes reflected her own fear, but behind it was a glimmer of hope, a testament to her love. No, I won't let this happen. With every ounce of strength left, she surged toward the light, pulling Ivy and Charlie with her. 1 step, 2 steps. The scream of the shadows grew louder, clawing at her mind. Their whispers promised despair, enticing her to turn back, to yield to them. Jessica! The figure yelled, its voice barely cutting through the chaos. You must, but the connection faltered, a thread fraying in the tension. All her instincts screamed to protect her children, to reach the light that promised safety. Please! Ivy cried, panic seeping into her voice. I don't want to lose you. And in that moment, the bond of love ignited again, hotter than the flames of the shadows. With an impulse fueled by primal instinct, she steadied herself and shouted, We are not letting you take anyone. I choose my family. A blinding flash erupted, engulfing them in a sphere of light. The shadowy figures screamed in anguish, thrashing wildly, momentarily blinded. But no sooner had the light surrounded them than Jessica felt a strong pull, a terrible tug that threatened to separate her from her children. Hold on! She yelled, panic igniting a fire within her. But as the shadows writhed, the blurred edge of the light warped and shifted, becoming a wall of agony. Time felt like quicksand. Mommy! Charlie's terrified calling melted into a memory, a sentiment she was desperately grasping to keep. Suddenly, she saw it, the fractured reality bending and reshaping, aware that one of them could be lost. Who will it be? The shadows traced the edges of their bubble, taunting, deliciously leaning on her fear once more. And then Jessica realized the sacrifice demanded was not who would remain outside but who could submit to the darkness. In that very instant, her breath caught, a wave of dread crashing over her. What would she be willing to give for their safety? The light flickered, sharp and uncertain, and Jessica felt left with a haunting realization the darkness demanded more than she had ever imagined. Would love be enough to shield their hearts from the shadows' hunger? As their fate spiraled out of control, the question burned. Which child would the shadows take? And just as darkness began to seep in, reality splintering along new lines, Jessica's world slipped toward another harrowing decision. Was it too late? The blinding light pulsed around them, a frantic heartbeat stitching moments together. Jessica fought against the pull, clutching Ivy and Charlie's hands like a lifeline. The screams of the shadows faded into an echoing drone, but the fear dripped, relentless. Don't let go! She cried out, her voice trembling as the temperature plummeted, an icy gust sweeping towards them, threatening to extinguish the last flicker of warmth. The shadows retaliated, their cold breath laced with promises of despair, urging them to panic, to release one another instead of facing the unthinkable. Mommy! Ivy whimpered, her tiny grip slipping ever so slightly, but Jessica tightened her hold. I won't never. The fierce love in her chest surged again, reaching out like claws to grasp the light brighter, even as a whisper danced in the corners of her mind. What if one of them had to make the ultimate sacrifice? The shadows swirled in a tempest, forming grotesque figures, each face a distorted reminder of what could become of them if they failed. Their mouths opened, wide and hungry, exposing jagged teeth. Will it be you, dear mother? Or perhaps that little one who dares to cling so tight? They hissed, laughter seeping from their very essence. Jessica's throat tightened. Get away from them! she shouted, stance shifting, defiant against this dark tide. But her resolve splintered under the pressure of their taunts, her mind replaying the worst fears, the echoes of silence if one of them vanished. A web of shadows coiled around her ankles, pulling her down toward darkness. The familiar embrace of fear nudged at the back of her mind, each second stretching like elastic, ready to snap. "I love you both," she yelled, grounding herself in the sound of her own voice. Then, Ivy's gaze caught among the shadows, wide and fearful. "Mommy," she whispered, confusion and terror swirling in those innocent eyes. "What's happening?" Every part of Jessica screamed to protect them, to shield her precious children from the monsters surrounding them. "Stay close. I promise we will find a way out." She turned to the glimmering light that pulsed at the tunnel's end, feeling more desperate than ever. Sweat trickled down her forehead, the chill creeping deeper, almost suffocating. "Don't listen to them," she urged, a strange determination filling her tone. "They want to tear us apart." But suddenly a sickening thought pierced her mind. What if her failure meant sacrificing one of them for the other's passage toward the light? The darkness knew this. It fed on her fears, relishing the turmoil it sowed. "Mommy, I'm scared," Charlie's voice echoed, each syllable sending ice through her veins. Then the shadows directed a lingering whisper at Jessica, twisting her heart into knots. "All it takes is a choice, dear mother, but only one will escape." The light glowed ahead, teasing, beckoning promises she desperately wanted to believe. Yet a heavy fog was settling in her chest, closing her throat, keeping her pinned down as the darkness expanded. Her breath quickened. "We have to go. Now." With every ounce of will, she pulled her children forward, their feet sluggish against the encroaching shadows behind them. The shrieks of the shadows became a haunting melody, a twisted chorus of despair that threatened to drown out her hope. Then, she felt it, an icy touch, tugging at her leg like a grasping hand. "Leave them," the shadows hissed, their voices laced with sinister laughter. "Let them go. We only wish to help you." And suddenly, she understood the full horror of it. A choice had to be made, but she would never choose between her children. An overwhelming dread surged within her. What had she brought them into? As the light flickered and the shadows advanced, Jessica felt the ground beneath her tremble. Would their love break against the dark, or would it crumble beneath the weight of impossible sacrifice? "Jessica!" A voice called, distant yet piercing through the chaos. In that split second, she hesitated. Could there be a way to hold on to both without choosing? As the shadows whispered sweet promises, more compelling than the darkness that propelled them forward, her heart raced with the unbearable weight of her choices. Would she gamble everything to save them both, or would fate carve a path of sorrow that couldn't be undone? Time froze, the tunnel's end narrowing, with an unshakable dread settling in. The next step could unravel them all. What if this was just the beginning of a larger nightmare? The shadows lashed out, their climactic hunger intertwining with the desperation in Jessica's heart. "No!" she screamed, her voice raw and defiant. She could feel the frigid claws wrapping tighter around her ankles, the ground crumbling with every heartbeat, echoing with the voices of the damned. Why sacrifice one when you can embrace the darkness together? The shadows hissed, their laughter reverberating like the whispers of long-dead souls. The terror curling around Jessica's gut felt like barbed wire, each thought more suffocating than the last. "I want to choose," she shouted back, fighting against the chaos swirling around them. But doubt crept in, their words dug deep, planting seeds of fear. The familiar ache of helplessness settled heavily on her chest. What if they were right? What if one of them had to stay behind for the others to escape? "Mommy!" Ivy cried, her pure, innocent voice slicing through the din like glass. "I don't want to go. I don't want to die." Jessica's heart shattered, each syllable a jagged piece of ice penetrating her thoughts. "Ivy, listen to me." Jessica turned to her daughter, trying to keep her voice steady. "We're going to be okay. I promise." But the flicker of confidence in her voice felt weak against the growing shadows. A breath tore from her lips as the shadows twisted into shapes, defiling the air with their putrid whispers. "Mommy," Charlie murmured, his wide eyes glistening with tears and panic. The shadows shifted, forming a version of him that made Jessica's heart stutter. "Mommy, please let me help you stop, just stop," she pleaded, wrenching her eyes away. The sight was almost too much. She could feel the warmth of both kids slipping through her fingers, the space between them stretching impossibly wide. The light glimmering ahead pulsed with intensity, as if trying to communicate. "This way," it seemed to whisper. But at what cost? Desperately, Jessica pulled them towards the light. The shadows writhed, growing ever closer and ominous. She could feel the awareness of dying, pressing down like lead on her chest. The shrieks surrounding them blended into an unnerving harmony, rising and falling like a dark wave threatening to crash over them. Then she heard it, a soft crack, like a twig snapping underfoot. Her heart lurched. The light, so tantalizingly close, flickered uncertainly. "Take my hand," a voice called from the dimness. Was it a trick? She searched the shadows but found no hint of familiarity. Was someone else trapped within this nightmare? "Mommy?" Charlie's quivering voice broke through her hesitation. "We have to go now." The shadows narrowed, clawing at them, vile tendrils lashing forward as if trying to tear her children away. Jessica felt their bile-laden breath hot against her neck. "Only one can pass," they taunted. "Make the choice." Panic surged, the tendrils tightening like a vice. Jessica could feel her world crumbling around her. She had been the one to lead them into this nightmare, and now it seemed she was their only hope. But how to choose? "Jessica!" The voice called again, more urgent and desperate, echoing eerily. Choose or lose them both. With a shuddering breath, she concluded that whatever was calling must have the answers, but how could she trust anything within this torment? Heart racing, she had to act. Time was slipping through her fingers, just like the last moments she had with her family. "Charlie, Ivy," she whispered, adrenaline flooding through her, "hold on tight." She pulled them to her again, all their warmth igniting hope, a desperate flicker against the swarm of shadows. A step forward. "Your choice looms, dear mother," the shadows hissed, voices melding into a cacophony of despair. "Make it." And as the light pulsed once more, brightening the dark, Jessica's world narrowed to one final breath. What if the choice was already made for her? With the weight of both children clinging to her, she forced herself toward the light, praying fate wouldn't let the darkness win. Would they break free together, or would they be swallowed whole, losing the last remnants of love in the process? The wind howled, and the ground cracked beneath them, the walls of fate closing in. One last, desperate choice loomed ahead. Jessica plunged forward, dragging her children with her. The light pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing them in, pushing against the shadows that clawed at their heels. The howling wind screamed around them, threatening to swallow them whole. "Mommy!" Ivy's grip tightened, fingers digging into Jessica's skin. "I'm scared." "I know, sweetheart. Just keep holding on." Jessica choked out, her own heart racing. She felt every surge of darkness trying to pull them apart, each shadow a treacherous claw seeking to draw them into the abyss. The ground cracked beneath their feet with a rumble that resonated deep within her bones. "Only one can pass," the shadows whispered again, a cold, mocking echo of their previous threat. The hunger in their voices melded with the howling wind, a twisted lullaby that sent a shivering chill down Jessica's spine. What if it came to that? If her choice was indeed snatched away, would it mean the end of everything? The thought made her dizzy, but there was no time to dwell. She had to keep moving. And the light flared again, blindingly bright. It felt like salvation, like hope wrapped in warmth. But just as quickly as it appeared, it dimmed, flickering like a candle at the mercy of a ferocious gale. Was their chance slipping away? "Mommy, we can't hold on forever," Charlie cried, tears streaming down his face. Shadows twisted into mockeries of their faces, teeming with promises of escape if only she would put one of them down. "Mommy, please, let me go. I can face it." Charlie's voice quivered, full of innocence but heavy with doubt. "No." Jessica barked, feeling her heart tear at the idea. "I won't do that. I won't lose you." But the shadows laughed harder, their taunting laughter echoing in her ears, mingling with her children's cries. She churned her thoughts. The stakes were rising. Her instincts screamed that choosing one child meant losing the other. Her heart fractured under the weight, but there had to be another way. She could feel time slipping like the sand through her fingers. Each second was a cry in the wind. "Mommy!" Ivy's voice quaked with desperation. "I don't want to die. Please. I need you both. Together." Jessica shouted, but her voice felt hollow among the shrieking chaos. Each pulse of the light tugged her in different directions. The shadows waited, a greedy, hungry mass poised to strike, poised to feast on their fear. "The choice draws near, make it," they murmured in a chorus, dark and sinister. "Mommy?" Ivy's tone had shifted, now a whisper laced with dread. What if we have to let go?" "No!" Jessica roared, her feet firming as she pulled them closer, desperate not to be torn apart. "We can find a way." A flicker caught her eye, a glimmer of something in the darkness. Not a light, a figure, looming at the edge of the abyss. Dread wrapped around her like a shroud. "Stay behind me," she ordered her kids, pushing them slightly back. The figure, draped in shadow yet beckoning with an outstretched hand, radiated an unsettling familiarity. The air thickened, the shadows writhing in anticipation. "Come," it beckoned softly, a voice that was almost familiar. "Let me show you the truth." The ground trembled beneath them, shaking the borders of reality. Jessica felt wild fear spike through her, a terror that made her want to buckle, to give in. Who was this thing promising to reveal the truth? Could it be trusted? The shadows danced around her like a storm, and the figure stood firm, waiting. "Choose, do not let the darkness claim you. Embrace the light." The chill deepened, crawling up her arms. Was she ready to embrace anything, be it darkness or light? Could she truly discern which was which? Jessica held her breath, her heart pounding against her ribcage like a trapped animal. An urgent decision loomed before her, but which path would save them? Would the truth bring salvation, or would it spell their doom? She needed to grasp the demon in the dark before it devoured them whole. The impending storm crouched around them, waiting for her answer. Jessica came the whisper, prophetic and terrifying. "What will you choose?" A choice loomed, thrumming in the air, dread wrapping tightly around her throat. What awaited her on the other side, safety or ensnarement? Every answer felt like a gamble, each moment stretching dangerously thin. Time hung in the air, thick with anticipation, as Jessica felt the shadows pulsate around her. The figure loomed closer, its dark outline flickering like a dying flame, yet a spark of familiarity echoed within it. "This is your moment," it urged, voice low and laced with tension. "Trust in the bond you share." Breathless, Jessica glanced at Ivy and Charlie, eyes wide with uncertainty, and she whispered fervently, "No matter what happens, we stick together. Always." The words tumbled out like a tethered lifeline forged in desperation. The shadows writhed at the mention of their unity, a collective hiss escaping the storm of darkness that surrounded them. "Embrace the truth," the figure beckoned again, extending a hand. "The only way you'll win is by choosing what you value most." "What I value most?" Jessica echoed, her heart pounding fiercely. The seconds slipped away, each tick aggressive against the hurry of her breaths. The warmth of her children's tiny hands in her grasp served as an anchor in the creeping dread. "Only one can escape," the chorus of shadows shrieked, voices overlapping with rage and frustration, clashing against the warm glow from the figure. "Choose, or you all perish." Her heart dropped. What if it truly came to that? The very thought twisted like a knife within her. Everything flashed before her eyes, the moments that mattered, the laughter shared across a kitchen table, the soft "I love yous" whispered before bed. "Please, Mommy. We can't stay here," Charlie urged, his voice barely a whisper, trembling with fear. "No." Jessica shook her head fiercely, pushing back against the knot of despair that tightened around her throat. "I won't let fear make this choice." She felt a wave of warmth surge through her. The shadows screamed at her defiance, twisting into horrific shapes that lurched toward the vulnerable light. "You can't win against your deepest fears, Jessica." They howled, but the examination of her heart unveiled a revelation. It wasn't about letting her fears dictate her actions, it was about the fierce love that encircled her like a cocoon, binding them together against that darkness. "No! I'm not afraid of you!" she screamed, her voice reverberating, gaining strength from the steady heartbeats of her children beside her. She stepped closer towards the figure, embracing the shimmering light. "We are family. And together, we are stronger than you." The shadows recoiled, a cascade of despair crashing into silence as waves of warmth began to spark from her chest. Each pulse of love spread through Ivy and Charlie, igniting their spirits, binding them tightly to the growing radiance. "Mommy, hold me tight," Ivy squeaked, clutching her mother as if she could fuse them as one. Charlie, with tears streaming down his face, echoed his sister's pleas, pressing himself closer. "I will hold you tight, no matter what," Jessica promised. From somewhere deep inside, a surge of love erupted like a volcano, illuminating the darkness that sought to claim them. "You think you can take my children?" The shadow shrieked, pained, furious at the warmth swelling against them. "You will pay for this defiance." But Jessica stood firm, love enveloping her. "No, we will not. Not today." Flickering lights erupted from her heart, casting away the shadows and illuminating the fading figures writhing in horror. The chorus of fear began to dissolve in opposition to the love radiating from Jessica's heart, dissolving the shadows into wisps of despair. "We are together," she shouted. "You cannot break what is strong enough." The figure in the light steadied its gaze. "You chose love. The bonds you hold will keep you safe." Before Jessica could process the weight of the figure's words, she felt everything around her shift like the grounding beneath her was tearing away. The blinding light coiled around them, pure and golden, ushering them toward freedom. The shadows screamed, a cacophony of rage shrinking into the distance, voices fading under the overpowering glow of love surging forth. Jessica clung to her children as the moment expanded a singular pulse in time. The darkness scattered and blanketed under the warmth of their intertwined connection. In a loud flash, the light enveloped them completely, and the tension snapped as Jessica felt the world shift around her. When she blinked again, they stood in their living room, sunlight streaming across the floor, casting familiar shadows. Ivy and Charlie stood beside her, cheeks wet with tears but faces relaxed, laughter bubbling forth in joyous disbelief. "Mommy!" they chimed, voices spilling over with relief. "You saved us!" With trembling hands, Jessica pulled them close, her heart finally bursting with gladness. "No, we saved each other," she whispered, weighing the truth nestled in that victory. The echoes of their ordeal faded, but the strength of the connection remained vivid. Maplewood was safe again, wrapped in the light she'd carried home. No longer would the whispers hold power over them. As Jessica turned to the window, the shadows cast by trees outside danced, but this time, they were just shadows. Just shapes swaying with the whispers of wind, harmless, unlike the horrors that had threatened them. "Are you hungry?" she asked suddenly, ushering a sense of normalcy. The kids laughed, the sound of balm healing all aching hearts, their innocence restored. "Can we have pancakes?" Charlie beamed. "Yeah, fluffy, delicious pancakes." Ivy chimed in, her round eyes sparkling. "Yes." Jessica laughed, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Let us make the biggest pancakes you can imagine." With a newfound joy, they raced into the kitchen, leaving behind the shadows that once lingered too heavy. Each day would be a gift. They knew love was worth fighting for, and together, they could face anything. And for the first time in a long while, Jessica felt a lightness around her heart. The end of darkness ushered in a new journey, a joy woven through tiny moments and big dreams, forged in battles of the past. Love would always be their anchor. But a voice inside Jessica lingered, reminding her of the shadows that once threatened to conquer her life. She had emerged victorious, but she knew the importance of vigilance, of keeping close those who mattered most, of never allowing fear to rule again. As they worked side by side in the kitchen, laughter echoing around them, palms sticky with batter, it felt like a second chance. A renewal against everything that had tried to tear them apart. Before long, they were enveloped in the golden warmth of the morning sun, basking in the sweet success of family, free and safe together. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss our next exclusive story. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and show your love. And don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. This is the moment to show your support. Share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second.